Hello and welcome to this Freemius webinar created especially for WordPress product people by Mr. Vova Feldman. This webinar is going to focus on next generation data-driven plugin and theme development. So just to help you make sure you're watching content that's right for you, let's quickly go over what you'll learn in this webinar. We'll start off with the fundamentals of product development and the feedback loop. Go over usage tracking for products like plugins and themes, and finally look at some practical examples of how Freemius used data to improve quality and reduce abandonment rate. So let's get right to it. Here's Vova Feldman.
Before I get started, let me just give you a brief background about my WordPress story. Back in 2010, I started a side project called Rating Widget. Years later, after my previous company was acquired, I joined to another guy and we decided to turn the side project into a freemium solution. We spent a little more than a year of full-time work and we managed to take the solution into a fully commercial product. And fairly quickly we started to generate a decent money. When we look back, we realized that the core product didn't change at all. It remained the same ratings plugin I built in a few weekends of my spare time back in 2010. Everything we've been working on during that year had nothing to do with the product itself, but it was essential to turn it into a commercial solution. This disproportion in time it takes to build open source products like WordPress plugins and themes versus the time it takes to monetize them kind of blew our mind. And that's how we start with Freemius. Our mission is helping fellow open source developers to achieve what we've done in a matter of minutes and build prosperous subscription-based businesses. So let's get started. From a user perspective, many WordPress plugins and themes suck. And the reason for that is because most WordPress products are developed by developers, for developers, and blindly. So you might say that this is not the case with your plugin or theme, and maybe that's true. But what I'm trying to convey in this video is that what's really important is what your users think about your product and how you can get that data. I found this great Giphy that demonstrates how the WordPress product ecosystem looks like in just a few seconds. So the kid with a white t-shirt is a plugin or theme developer, and the rest of the kids are the users. And that's exactly how users feel when they interact with our products. Let me show you why we're blind compared to other ecosystems. Most of you have websites, and I'm pretty sure that you're using some analytics solution like Google Analytics or Mixpanel. So why would you need an analytics solution for a website? You want to know what is the traffic. You want to know that if you release a new blog post, you want to see how it performs compared to others. If you run a marketing campaign, you want to know how effective is the campaign. In general, you want to get feedback and validation on changes that you make, and we'll talk about that deeply in the next 10 minutes. If we take a look at a mobile apps ecosystem, these guys are masters on everything related to usage tracking. They practically capture every click, swipe, and gesture. They want to know everything about the users. Even if we look in the DevOps space, we have amazing monitoring tools like New Relic or log analysis, solutions like Splunk. These systems give you an in-depth look on things like CPU consumption, storage, database performance, and more. And again, they help you to visualize and analyze how changes affect your service layer. Answering questions like whether your servers be ready for the high traffic in Cyber Monday, right? So these tools can help you to get that info. Now let's take a look at what we have with WordPress. If your product is listed on WordPress.org, you rely on the stats page. If you examine that page, there are basically two metrics. The number of downloads over time, which is nice, but doesn't really provide you valuable data because updates counted as downloads as well. And we also have the estimated number of active installs. So first of all, it's an estimation and it's far from being accurate. Secondary, even if it was accurate, this metric is fragmented. So for example, once you get to 10,000 active installs, the next data point where the metric will be updated is once you cross the 20,000 active installs. So you practically need to double your user base in order to see any change in growth. If your product is listed on a marketplace like ThemeForest or CodeCanyon, you're mainly going to see metrics related to your sales numbers and page views or traffic to your marketing page. But in both cases, you will not see what are the websites that are using your product, you will not see who are the people that are using it and how they use it. And this is what I call blindness. Let's talk about the biggest misconceptions in a WordPress ecosystem related to data. The first misconception among plugin and theme developers is that tracking data is prohibited. Since day one, we've been trained that we're not supposed to track data. And I think the main reason for that is because of the WordPress.org official plugins guidelines. So if we open the guidelines, we will see a section that talks about something called phoning home. Right? So phoning home means that you're not allowed to send data outside from the server. But what's crucial to notice is that if we continue to read the section, it says that we're not allowed to do that without the user's informed consent, which means that yes, we actually can track data, we just need to get the user's permission to do so. The second misconception, and this time from the user perspective, is that sharing data is a bad thing. So WordPress was based on the foundation of democratizing publishing, the idea that everyone can become a publisher, blogger, easily write content without any censorship. The thing is, this mentality turned us into data hoards, right? So we want all the data to ourselves and we're not willing to share it back. But the one thing that we forgot as community is if we don't share any data back with the people that build the products, we're simply breaking the fundamentals of the feedback loop in product development. The concept of the feedback loop is pretty simple and only have 3 steps. You start with an assumption or hypothesis. It could be an idea for a feature or a new product. Then you build it and run an experiment. You measure different metrics that should help you to validate your assumption. Then based on the data that you tracked, you analyze it and decide what to do next. Whether you preserve that feature, whether you trash it because no one uses it, and the cycle goes on and goes on. And that's the fundamentals of every product development. The problem is this feedback loop is simply broken in WordPress because we're not tracking any data. So far I've shown you very abstract concepts, but now I want to move to the good stuff and show you how you can take these practices and actually apply them in your products to make your products better and increase your bottom line. So we're going to talk about what metrics you should measure, why measure them, and what to do with the data that you analyze. The 2 most important metrics that every product developer must know is acquisition and abandon rate. Acquisition means how many new installations or new customers your product is getting. Abandon rate means how many users are leaving or uninstalling your product. So this is a typical user acquisition funnel. Usually you get your traffic from WordPress.org, search engines like Google, some content marketing like your blog, email marketing, or social media. So those are the typical acquisition channels. The blue bar shows your acquisition rate, how many users that got to your WordPress.org landing page turned into users. The red column represents the abandon rate, which means how many users uninstalled your product. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're getting 100 new users that are installing your WordPress plugin on a daily basis. It means that your daily acquisition rate is 100 users. In the same time, if you lose 20 users every day, your daily abandon rate is 20%. So your effective growth is 80 new installations a day. So our goal is to maximize our acquisition and acquisition rates while minimizing our abandon rate in order to increase our effective growth. Knowing your abandon rate can help you answering strategic questions like, should you focus on improving your product or should you invest more time into marketing? And the way to decide that is actually very simple. So let's say that your abandon rate is 1%. It means that your product's internal functionality is pretty much amazing and there is not much that you can do inside a product that will increase your effective growth. On the other hand, if your abandon rate is 80%, it means that you have a big problem inside a product, in your plugin or your theme. So even if you spend thousands of dollars on marketing, out of every 100 users that you buy, you're going to lose 80 of them. That means that you should probably focus on your product, otherwise you're going to waste a lot of money on marketing. There are various strategies how you can increase your acquisition. A really good one is SEO. So if you have a product on WordPress.org or on the marketplaces, users are usually discovering your plugin or theme using search. So the search is actually based on your listing description, which you have a full control of. This is the effective growth chart from the Freemius dashboard, showing a real data of a plugin that used that exact same approach. As you can see, there is a really nice bump in acquisition. On the other hand, you will also notice that the number of users that uninstalled the plugin also increased. And the reason for that is very simple. The developer didn't change anything in the product. Therefore, the abandon rate remained the same and relatively more users uninstalled the plugin. But in overall, the effective growth was increased. If you don't track the acquisition and abandon rate, you basically can't really know whether your SEO optimization is effective or not. Another metric that's worth tracking is the languages and the countries of the users. My friend Joe Dolson was kind enough to share his languages data with us. So Joe had WP to Twitter for over 8 years and he added Freemius last year to start doing some usage tracking in his plugin. Very quickly, Joe discovered that over 30% of his users are Japanese speakers. So this data helps Joe to prioritize his translation efforts. Also, he might apply that in his marketing material. For example, translating some of the blog posts or maybe landing pages into Japanese to make it more accessible for native Japanese speakers. Another crucial data is knowing where your plugins or themes are installed at. And when I say where, I mean what are the sites that are actually using them. So Freemius comes with this out-of-the-box report when you can see all the sites that are using your plugin or theme, what versions of it, etc. Besides the fact that it's really cool to know where your product is running, it can also help you with different aspects of your business. What, for example, if you find out that a well-known company is using your plugin or theme on their website? This could be a huge marketing differentiator for you to feature their logo on your homepage. And here's a screenshot from ratingwidget.com, which is our plugin's homepage. Not only that it increases our credibility in front of users and potential customers, we also became the go-to rating solution for enterprise-level customers. Only last year we had 2 public companies have started to use our service and paying us thousands of dollars a year for providing them special SLA. So that's 20, 30, even 40 times more than the typical $100 a year customer. And these customers are the best because you never hear from them and they stick with you for years. And the only way we could have done that by knowing where our plugin is installed. As you remember, there are 2 ways to increase the effective growth. One of them, which sometimes could be way easier, is reducing the abandon rate. So if we want to tackle the abandon rate, we have to learn why users uninstall our plugin or theme. So today when a user uninstalls a plugin or switches to a different theme, nothing happens. You practically lose that user and you have no clue why. So even if you do some usage tracking and capture different events in your product, it's really complex to pinpoint the exact trigger for the uninstallation. To solve that problem, we added a deactivation feedback form. So instead of just deactivating the plugin or switching a theme, we simply ask the user if they are willing to share the reason of the uninstallation. It's a very friendly feedback form and it's absolutely optional. But what we found is that actually 82% of the people happy to tell you what are the reasons they are uninstalling your product. And this data is invaluable because there's no other way to capture it, right? If the user already uninstalled your plugin or switched to a different theme, he already made the decision. The chance that they will proactively contact you and tell you, hey, Mr. Developer, by the way, uninstall your plugin because XYZ, this never happens. So this report shows rating widgets top uninstallation reasons collected by Freemius from the same deactivation feedback form I just shown you. So we can see that currently significant amount of the uninstallations related to the first time user experience. So either the user didn't understand how the plugin works or they expected something else. So now instead of just following our gut feeling, we can actually focus on the real issues that the users are having. And as a side note, I just want to give a tip that first time user experience or the onboarding part is a problem across all the WordPress products ecosystem. If you have a WordPress plugin or a theme, just make sure that when the user install and activate your product, he knows what he's supposed to do next. In addition, Freemius gives us the ability to dive into the raw data and filter by different keywords. So for some reason, recently users started to complain that our plugin affects the site's performance. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is the user's perception, and that's exactly what we need to fix in our plugin. Knowing the right terminology is super important, both for marketing efforts and for user experience and simplicity. So if you call your feature or setting in a name that your users are not familiar with, that's a problem. And here's a great example of bad terminology we use in our own plugin. So one of the feedbacks we've received when we've just launched the feedback form is that users said that our plugin doesn't work with infinite scroll. Infinite scroll basically means on-demand loading of content. So instead of going to the next page, when you scroll to the bottom of the page, the post from the second page will load automatically. What's interesting is that we actually did support that use case. It was a matter of checking a box in the settings, but we as developers call that option AJAX support. As developers, that was the intuitive term to use, but obviously as users who are not tech savvy, they have no clue what is AJAX. So this small feedback loop helped us to solve that problem by simply renaming the setting to infinite scroll /AJAX support, which turned that setting to be appealing both for technical and non-technical users. So this tiny yet really important setting rename helped us to decrease the abandon rate and increase our effective growth. Now I want to talk about knowing your users and the importance of communication. So today developers just don't have the option to communicate with users unless it's a customer that purchased the product from your website. So it's true for WordPress.org and it's also true for marketplaces like CodeCanyon, ThemeForest. None of those actually sharing the user's email or the communication channel with the developer. Probably the most important reason we want to have our users' emails is security fixes. So we all know how security is a big thing in WordPress, and it's just a matter of time until my plugin or theme will have some security vulnerability. If we don't have the emails of our users, there's no way for us to tell them that before we actually expose that to everyone. And that actually exposes their website to attackers to use that vulnerability before they manage to patch their website. Another reason you want to have your users' emails is communicating feature announcements. So whether you have a free plugin or theme or a premium one, you work on that so hard, you develop new things, solve bugs, and users just don't know about that. So yes, you can write about it in your blog, but the thing is most of your users or customers don't really read it. Another option is adding an admin notice. But we need the users to update the plugin first or the theme in order to do that. But we know that many users don't update plugins, especially not updating themes. So even if you build the game changer feature that everyone needs, Today, you don't have a way to communicate that back to your users. Another reason, and more business-oriented, for plugins and themes with a premium offering is promotions. So you may say that this is spammy, it's not the WordPress way, but it's actually really up to you whether it's spammy or not. I'm not telling you send a promotional email a minute after the user provided you his email. Send it after a week, after a month, on promotion like Cyber Monday. And who doesn't like discounts? It's just a great incentive to buy stuff, and we do it all the time. Plus, make sure that you have an option to unsubscribe from the promotional emails. And the last one is kind of a bonus. So you can also send your users educational emails. So after the user opt-in, you can, for example, send him a welcome email referencing your FAQ section, knowledge base, and how the users can contact you if they have issues. A common practice in a software as a service world is adding the user into a drip campaign. Drip campaign means a sequence of emails that contain a combination of educational content and also highlighting different features in your product. So for example, if you have a plugin that focuses on SEO, you can start sending different emails educating the user about the SEO world while highlighting different features in your product that can help them achieve different goals related to SEO. So I've shown you all these cool things that you can achieve with data, and the question is how you can implement that into your WordPress plugin or theme. So if you remember, we discussed about the sections from the repo guidelines about phoning home. So the one thing that you should remember is that all usage tracking in the WordPress ecosystem starts with an opt-in mechanism, which means you need to ask the user's permission to get any data. There are a bunch of analytics and usage tracking solutions on the market. The main difference is that Freemius, our solution, was developed specifically for WordPress plugins and themes. So it comes with a special SDK that you just plug into your product and it does all the heavy lifting for you. So you can get everything that I've shown you today and more in a matter of 5-minute integration, including the opt-in mechanism, deactivation feedback form, effective growth tracking, site and user reports, and tons of other powerful features. In addition, if you have a free GPL plugin or theme without any paid version, you're more than welcome to use Freemius for free. It's our way to give back to the WordPress community and improve the whole product ecosystem. Just a few words before I finish. It's 2017. It's about time that we as a WordPress product ecosystem close the gap in terms of data compared to the rest of the world. I think it's our duty as plugin and theme developers to know our users, know how they use our solutions, and follow data instead of our gut feeling. That's the only way we can build the next generation data-driven products. I hope you learned a few practical techniques you can implement into your product. If you enjoyed that video, you should also check out our blog. We cover topics like product development, marketing, usage tracking, pricing, basically everything related to the business side of WordPress plugins and themes. So thanks again for watching and see you in the next WordCamp.